Alright, let's do chapter 3 quickly. Alright. Chapter 3, positive or negative. It was almost noon, and Spike was preparing to head out of the library tree to go to Appleblom's scheduled appointment at the Ponyville Hospital. He was just about to head out when Twilight called out to him and halted him in the steps. "And where do you think you're going, young dragon?" To the hospital, Spike responded. "I want to be there for Appleblom checkup, for support, you know." "What about all those books and other stuff that you left over there?" Twilight pointed to a corner in the room where Spike left a whole pile of library possessions. It seemed that hoarding instinct had gotten the best of him again. "Oh yeah, I'll get to that later." "Oh no you don't," Twilight protested as she pulled him back from the door with her magic. "You'll get to it now. You just forget again, like you did the last time. I'm not picking up after you again." "Come on, Twilight," said Spike, feeling anxiety. "I don't want to be late. I promised that I would be there." Then Twilight used her magic again to push Spike over to his pile and said, "Then you better stop complaining and hurry up." Spike just lightly brooded to himself, and he was beginning to pick up the mess. Some smoke was puffing from his nostrils, and he was feeling a bit upset. He was a teen dragon after all, and some of his teenage agents was showing a bit as he mumbled to himself, "Man, what a pain. I'm a freaking dragon. I'll do whatever the heck I want." What was that, Spike?" Twilight suddenly said. Spike jumped and hesitated as he said, I said, "I'll get right on it." Twilight stepped out of the room for a moment, and Owlicious was nearby, hooting at him in a humorous manner. Spike glared at him and lightly snarled, "Shut up, you stupid owl." Applejack and Appleblom had just arrived to the Ponyville Hospital for the scheduled appointment. They walked up to the front desk, where they were greeted by Nurse Redheart, who was smiling quite brightly. "Hey there, Miss Applejack. You're here for your sister's appointment?" "That's right, Miss Redheart," Applejack responded. You seem I'm a bit castrated today. Are you okay?" Redheart gathered herself together and said, "Oh, I'm fine. It's just that, the past week really did wonders for me in many ways." Applejack looked at her weirdly and said, Forget I asked." After signing in, the two sisters went over to the waiting area where others were waiting for their old appointments. "Sounds like she had a good time," said Appleblom. "Just keep walking," Applejack grunted. After they sat down and Appleblom was pondering on what's going to happen next, she heard a familiar voice beside her. "Hey, Appleblom, nice to see ya." She looked to her and saw one of her friends, unknown, lunging her. "Hey, Ruby, what are you here for?" "Just to notice normal checkup as usual. What about you?" "I made it with the dragon, so I'm here for a pregnancy test." Ruby began to laugh, thinking Appleblom was just joking around. "Good one, Appleblom. You're hilarious." But then she saw Appleblom looking at her with a light smirk. "Wait, what?" Suddenly, Redheart came out and announced, "Appleblom, Miss Rhyme will see you now." Already?" Appleblom said in a light shock. "Oh well, see you later, Ruby." After Appleblom got up with her sister and walked off, Ruby was still sitting in her seat with wide eyes, feeling completely shocked. She just looked at a pony beside her and asked, "She was joking, right?" A few minutes Afterwards, Applebloom and Applejack were assigned to the room waiting to their assistant nurse to arrive. Before along a small-sized white pony with a dark red mane and tail, just walking in her with her trusty nurse hat and some papers. "Hello, I'm Miss Red Rhyme, and I'll be your assistant nurse for today." Nursery Rhyme looked over at Applebloom and saw that she was looking at her, smiling and giggling a bit. "What's that you look for?" she was asked, slightly scrolling. "I'm sorry, but I just can't get over of how cute you're adorable you look." "Well, yeah, you can't exactly help how our bodies deliver, honey." Applejack lightly punched her little sister on the shoulder, whispered, "Applebloom, show some respect." "I'm trying, sis, but just look at her." Applejack kept looking at Nursery Rhyme while she was going over her papers, and she slightly smiled and whispered, "Well, she does look a bit cute, I suppose." "Ahem, if we're done talking about how cute I am," said Nurse Rhyme as she was facing them, "let's get down to business. According to this, you're here for a pregnancy test. And I'm guessing it was something to do with recent heat period?" "Yeah, that's right," said Applebloom with a smile, and it was awesome. "I bet you had some fun too, right?" "Not really. I decided to not take parts." Applebloom suddenly gasped. "What? Come on! At least did some pony try to approach you, despite your look?" Nursery Rhyme thought about it for a second, and then she remembered. "Well, there was a patient that I had a few days ago. He was definitely interested in me, but he was too injured to do anything to me, or any pony. Else, for that matter, maybe you have a chance next year. Poor guy." Applebloom tried to image her that in her head, but all she could see was a cute little filly being sensitive to an older pony. She couldn't get the image out of her head. "So, are you sure you want to do this now?" Miss Rhyme asked. "It's a bit early to make a speculations." We know," said Applejack, "but we want to make sure that her mating process turns up negative. It's a long story." Miss Rhymes suddenly had a determined look on her face and responded, "Try me." Applejack then started to tell her well, it all started when all had to. But then her little sister suddenly interrupted. Had sex with a dragon." Applejack glared instantly at her sister for shouting that out in the middle of a sentence. However, Miss Rhyme froze and dropped her papers and she had in her mouth and shouted, "You what?" "Well, technically had sex with Spike. You know, the dragon who lives here. It was him. We had wonderful time." Miss Rhyme got herself out of her shock and gathered her papers back up from the ground. "Well, that definitely defies as interesting, but according to history records, dragons can't project ponies. They can't, right?" "I'm pretty sure they can't," said Applejack, "but there's nothing wrong with being safe and making sure." "It's going to be negative," said Applebloom. "Trust me." Nursery Rhyme just struggled and then grabbed a couple of hoof gloves and slipped them on her forehoofs. She got all serious and then she said, "Well, then, let's do this." After cleaning up the mess back at the library tree, Spike ran to Ponyville Hospital as fast as he could. He was holding on to his breath and approached the building. Then he rushed in, almost scared Nurse Redheart in the front desk. "Hi, I'm Spike the Dragon." "Yes, we know who you are," said Redheart with assumed smile, "seeing that you're the only dragon living here." "Sorry, I'm just out of breath." Is Applebloom already here? Yes, she is. In fact, she's already back there having her appointment. Spike relieved that he wasn't too late and stood up straight. Great. I guess I'll just let myself in. But when Spike was about to enter the patient hall, Redheart stepped in front of him. Path. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Where do you think you're going? To where Applebloom is. I promise I'll be there for her. Sorry, hold on. Redheart denied his request. Sorry, but when she's doing back there, it's very private business. Dude, it's to her pregnancy test. So you had to stay out here. Besides, it's not like you're the one that made it with her. Spike suddenly blushed and scratched his head as he responded. Actually, I did kinda am. The whole room suddenly became silent and everyone in the waiting area were staring at him in shock. Redheart was no different, thinking that he was just making a joke. You're kidding, right? Why in the heck would I kid about this? Said Spike, crossing his arms. Redheart was in silence and didn't know what to say, but she eventually broke herself out of her shocked state and took the Zazu's dragon. Look, I'll be a bit awkward to send you back there now, so just wait out here for there, okay? Spike just groaned and replied, yeah, fine. Alright, sorry. Spike was trying to calm from his wondering. Sorry, yeah, just trying to move my body. Wondering how Produce was going, but then he thought to himself, what am I worrying about anyway? Her results are probably going to be proven negative anyway. No reason to fret, Spike. Everything is going to be okay. Apple went through a few awkward Produce in getting herself tested for pregnancy. Afterwards, she and Applejack were instructed by Nursery Rhyme to stay inside the assistant's room until the results were done. After a few minutes, Applejack saw her little sister slightly moving her body around in the chair, and she was sitting in her fidgeting a bit while softly humming. Are you nervous, Applebloom? She asked her. Applebloom jumped a bit, hesitating, said, Me? Nervous? Of course not. Why would I be nervous? It's okay, Applebloom, said Applejack as she placed her hoof around her sister's shoulders. At times like this, it's perfectly fine to be nervous. Besides, what are your chances with that Spike actually got you pregnant? Well, seeing that this is the first time that this kind of thing happened, that completely unknown for all we know, I could become pregnant. But hey, maybe it will be fun being a mom. Listen, Applebloom, I say you're not pregnant, said Applejack in a demanding voice. And if you're not, then you're not. Applebloom just looked at her sister with lowered eyes and told her, you do know saying that I'm not going to happen doesn't really make it true, right? Suddenly, right at the moment, Nursery Rhyme opened the door and came back into the room, although she seemed to be dragging herself a bit, like she was delaying something. Oh, thanks, Celestia, you're back, said Applejack in relief. This is killing me. So Miss Rhyme said Applebloom was that she got up out of her chair. What are my results? I'm pretty sure it's obvious anyway, so just tell us. My sister can't stop freaking out. They both suddenly noticed that the nervous look on Miss Ryan's face, and she was almost afraid to give them to her answer. Everything okay, Miss Rhymes? Applejack asked. Well, she then pulled out the sheet of paper from her business folders. The results are complete and are all right here, but, well, see for yourself. When Miss Rhymeheart sat the papers down, the two sisters looked at it, and what they saw shocked them beyond belief. Meanwhile, Spike was in the waiting room trying to read a magazine to take his mind off things, and he was nervous the whole time he was waiting, but he was trying his best to not show it. However, at this point, a random fool beside him looked up at him and asked him, "So, are you nervous, Mr. Dragon?" Spike jumped slightly and looked down at the fool staring at him, trying to stay calm. Me? Nervous? Of course not. Why would I be nervous? Because you're going to be a daddy, the fool responded. Don't worry, my dad says being a daddy isn't bad for me most parts. It does seem very fun to me. I'm not going to be a daddy, Spike suddenly shouted. It's just one time, and it was the first pony dragon mating in forever. There's no proof that I'm going to be a daddy for mating with a pony. I'm not going to be a daddy. I tell you, I'm not. As he was catching his breath, he realized that the entire waiting room was staring at him again. He was slightly blushing from embarrassment and just sat back down, trying to calm down. The young fool looked up at his mother and told her, "He's nervous." And then Spike heard a nearby door open, where the patient's hall was. Thankfully for him, it's Applejack and Applebloom that were led out by Miss Rhyme. He jumped up out of his seat and random feelings replied from his stress. Applebloom, thanks to Leslie, you're back out. And okay, not that I was nervous or anything. He was nervous, said the fool from the area waiting room. I wasn't. Never mind. So, how'd it go? Was it a waste of time, like you predicted? Applebloom, Applejack, and Nurse Rhyme were all silent and not answering right away. Spike's nerves were heightened again, feeling that something was wrong. Why couldn't they talk? What's going on? Spike questioned, nervous. Why do y'all look troubled? He held on to Applebloom while kneeling and pleading. Applebloom, say something. Applebloom gave a shy grin and then told him, Spike, remember how Twilight said that it was uncertain if I could get projected by you? Because we were the first pony dragon pairing to ever mate ever? Yeah, I do, said Spike. But what does that have to do with... Then suddenly Spike's eyes went wide with fright, almost afraid to ask what happened. Wait, you're not saying... Please don't tell me. But much this horror, Applebloom gave him the answers in the tests. I'm sorry, Spike, but it's proven to be positive. You're going to be a daddy. Congratulations. Spike stood up. There is his kneeling stance, looking straightly horrified, and one of his eyes started to twitch. Alright guys, ear rape coming soon, so just get 10 seconds. Alright, warned you. His various wills started to quiver, and then his stress building up and released it once. No! Alright, 10 seconds. Good. The loud screeching sound could be heard all around Ponyville and could have been mistaken as harsh screaming urging torture. Twilight was reading a book in the library tree when suddenly she held her head up, getting a strange feeling. Did you hear something, Owlicious? She saw Owlicious was in a deep sleep since it was in the middle of the day. Twilight just looked out of the nearby window and struggled as she went back to her book. Must have been my imagination. Back at the hospital, poor Spike was sitting on the ground in the ball, rocking back and forth, continuing to freak out silently in front of the others. Could you perform that scream again? Said Miss Rhyme sarcastically. I don't think the entire town of Ponyville could hear you. She went over the ponies and who were watching the scene strongly and told them, Don't worry, ponies, nothing to see here, just something freaking out over becoming a father. Applebloom slowly went over to him and tried to comfort him. Are you okay, Spike? Don't worry. Maybe this will be a good thing. No need to freak out. But it didn't seem working as he was softly saying to himself, "This isn't happening. This isn't happening. This isn't happening." Nurse Redheart came out after hearing the DJ screaming and saw the state of that Spike was in. "Oh dear, I think you broke him." "You think?" said Miss Rhyme. "But he needed to know now or later, and later would it be better?" "He'll be alright," said Applejack with a low sigh. He just needs to get over his shock, but I can't say I am blaming him. I'm pretty shocked myself. How could this even be possible?" Apple Bloom began to feel a little awkward standing in front of Spike as he was freaked out. Constantly, she looked up at her sister and suggested, "Should we get Twilight?" "Yeah, I think this is the best for him about now," Applejack responded. "Just wait till Twilight hears about this." Alright, I'll see you guys tomorrow for chapter... hold on. Chapter 4. Alright. No, chapter 5, I think. Yeah, chapter 5. See you then. And again, don't forget, so sick of the same town, but the same place and the same faces.